Welcome to Literal BS, the podcast where we uncover the truth behind political agendas, expose the systems working against everyday Americans, and speak without fear. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most ambitious political plans in modern U.S. history. You've probably heard about Project 2025 in whispers or right-wing circles, calling it the Esther Project. But what does it mean? Who's behind it and why now? More importantly, how does it affect you and our democracy? So buckle up, because what you're about to hear is not a conspiracy theory. It's a real, documented political initiative to overhaul America's government and install a Christian nationalist regime. Let's begin. Project 2025 is not just another conservative think tank white paper. It's a full-blown roadmap to radically restructure the U.S. federal government under far-right authoritarian control, with a heavy dose of religious nationalism. Officially launched by the Heritage Foundation, one of the most powerful conservative policy organizations in the country, Project 2025 is a policy and personnel blueprint designed to ensure that if a Republican, especially Donnie, returns to power, they will have the tools, loyalists, and playbook to seize control of every aspect of the executive branch on day one. This is not subtle. This is not behind the scenes. This is openly published with over 900 pages of policy goals, department reshaping, and a database of thousands of pre-vetted ideological foot soldiers ready to replace career civil servants. In short, this is a hostile takeover of the American government, not through coups or violence, but through paper, law, and people. Who is responsible? The Heritage Foundation may be the face of Project 2025, but behind it is a coalition of over 100 far-right organizations, including Turning Point USA, Moms for Liberty, Alliance Defending Freedom, and even Christian nationalist networks with roots in the evangelical movement. The personnel side is being quietly handled through an initiative called the Presidential Personnel Database, which essentially acts as a loyalty test. Think of it as a Christian nationalist LinkedIn for future government employees. They're preparing to fire thousands of civil servants, those who swear allegiance to the Constitution, and replace them with ideologues who will swear allegiance to Donnie and the far-right vision of America. Now, let's talk about the Esther Project, which is what some Christian women's groups and conservative influencers are calling this movement. Inspired by the biblical story of Queen Esther, who saved her people by influencing the king, these women see themselves as modern-day Esthers, called by God to use their political influence to save America from secularism and liberalism. These fake Esthers host prayer events, rallies, and women's leadership conferences centered on religious revival and political mobilization. The Esther branding isn't official in the Project 2025 documents, but it's the emotional and spiritual cover that makes the political agenda more palatable to millions of Christian women, especially suburban voters who are being told they're fighting a spiritual war. So what's in the blueprint? The Project 2025 policy book, called Mandate for Leadership, The Conservative Promise, is a chilling read. It proposes the dismantling of key agencies like the Department of Education and the FBI, and a return to biblical values in government. That includes criminalizing abortion nationwide, banning LGBTQ+ rights under the guise of religious freedom, and injecting Christian doctrine into public education. It also calls for ending the independence of federal agencies like the CDC and EPA, giving the president direct control over science, medicine, and the environment. It proposes mass deportations, increased militarization of the border, and a rollback of civil rights protections across the board. In short, it is a policy wish list of the most extreme factions of the Republican Party, wrapped in flags and scripture. This isn't just talk. Elements of Project 2025 are already being implemented in red states, particularly Texas and Florida, where governors like Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis are experimenting with mini-theocracies. Florida's curriculum now includes biblical history, abortion bans are spreading, and books are being pulled from school libraries at a record pace. The goal is to test and refine policies in these states before pushing them nationally under a Republican White House. At the national level, Donnie's campaign has quietly embraced Project 2025, even as he denies knowledge of it publicly. Don't be fooled. Many of his top allies are contributors and architects of this playbook. Now let's talk about how they're selling it. The propaganda machine behind Project 2025 is brilliant and dangerous. They're using language like freedom, revival, and taking back America to sell an anti-democratic, theocratic agenda. Christian influencers on YouTube, TikTok, and podcast platforms are pushing daily content aimed at convincing people that voting Republican is the only way to follow God. They use fear of trans people, immigrants, and godless liberals to stir anxiety and turn every election into an apocalyptic battle. They've mastered the blend of faith, politics, and identity to convince people that rejecting Project 2025 isn't just political, it's heretical. Churches have become echo chambers for these talking points, with pastors giving Sunday sermons that double as political speeches. It's not a fringe movement anymore. It's mainstream and it's strategic. This isn't just about conservatives versus liberals. It's about whether we want to remain a pluralistic democracy or become a theocracy run by ideological zealots. If Project 2025 becomes reality, we could see a government that no longer respects the separation of church and state, erodes civil rights, and punishes dissent. Even if you're religious, you should be deeply concerned about politicians hijacking your faith to justify authoritarianism. This is not Christian governance. It's political control cloaked in religious language. So where do we go from here? The first step is awareness. Most Americans have never heard of Project 2025 or the Esther movement because corporate media refuses to cover it. That changes now. You need to read the blueprint, share it, talk about it, call it what it is. A coordinated campaign to destroy democracy and replace it with Christian nationalism. This isn't fear-mongering. This is happening now. The clock is ticking. 2025 isn't just a year. It's the deadline for a new America, one we didn't vote for and one we must resist with everything we have. Thanks for listening to Literal BS. This is Rob. Subscribe, share, and stay tuned because we're just getting started. Truth demands no gentle packaging. Its power lies in the courage to speak it. See you next time.